Okay, assalamu alaikum everyone, hope you are doing great. So I'm going to discuss one complete exam paper today, and this is specimen paper for June 2023 exam series. So I'll explain one complete paper today in this video lecture. So the first question is the demand for product is inversely related to its price, ceteris paribus. What does ceteris paribus mean in this context? So the scheme is, you should stop the video, read the question carefully, and afterwards listen to the logic and try to understand. If you still feel any kind of difficulty, you may write in the comment box. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So question number 1 is relevant to the basic assumption of ceteris paribus. Okay, so I want to share one more information with you as well. You can see a book on your screen right now, and this book is relevant to paper 1, and this book contains a lot of MCQs, topically arranged and yearly arranged, and each question has been explained as well with logic. So you can get this book by sending a text message on WhatsApp number showing on the screen right now, and I'll try to get it delivered to you well on time, right? So if you are from Islamabad and Rawalpindi, then you can get it within 30 minutes time, and if you are from other cities, then you can get it from within 1 day. Or so moving to question number 1, ceteris paribus is the basic assumption. Whenever we explain law of demand or law of supply, we assume that there are certain factors that are kept constant. So this is a Latin term, ceteris paribus, and it means, if we translate it into English, it means that other factors are kept constant or held constant. So option A is the correct answer. Factors affecting demand other than price are held constant. So all the factors that are kept constant while explaining any law are known as ceteris paribus. So option A is correct answer. Okay, so now moving to question number 2, what is likely to be introduced in market economy in the market for bus travel if an economy moves from a mixed economy to a market economy? Okay, so again, you can stop the video, read the question carefully, try to understand and figure out what should be the answer, then read again, listen to the video carefully, right? So when we move from mixed to a market economy is a kind of economy in which resources are allocated by private individuals and companies, and mixed economy is the combination of both public and private sector, means government and private sector both allocate resources. Now if economy moves to a market economic system, now private individuals will be taking all type of decision. So option A is correct answer, allowing companies to bid for bus routes, right? So option B is free bus travel for school children. Private companies don't allow that. Maximum price for bus travel, maximum price is set through the government intervention. Since it is market economy, government will not interfere. Subsidies to bus operators, since there is no government rule in this market economy, so government will not interfere. So private producers will be able to set prices and bid for the bus routes as well. So option A is the correct answer. Moving to question number 3. Question number 3 says the diagram shows production possibility curve PPC of maize and beans has changed from PPC1 to PPC2. So initially PPC was this one, PPC1, and then it has shifted to the right. So the output of beans was maximum initially 100, now we can produce 200 units, so output of beans has increased. Okay, so moving to the question says what has happened to the opportunity cost of maize and the returns of factors producing beans. So we can clearly see that return of beans has increased from 100 to 200. So this is clear that return of factor producing beans has risen. So option B and D can be correct. So you can cross these two options. Opportunity cost will definitely rise. So option D is correct answer. So we will cross option B as well. So all other options are also incorrect. So why opportunity cost has increased? You might be confused with that as well. So let me explain you. initially we were able to produce 100 units of maize. If we I put the ratio of maize and beans, then initially we were able to produce maximum 100 units of maize as well as 100 units of beans. So the ratio was 1:1. If we cancel out these zeros, 1:1. So opportunity cost of 1 unit of maize was 1 unit of beans initially. But now after the change, you can see that the maximum quantity of maize is exactly same, that is 100, but quantity of beans has increased to 200. So now the ratio will be 100 is equal to 200. So now if we remove these two zeros, so ratio is 1:2, means for every 1 unit of maize we have to sacrifice 2 units of beans. So opportunity cost has increased. Initially it was 1:1. Okay, so now moving to another question, and the question says an individual buys a ticket to visit a government owned art gallery, right? How would this visit be classified by an economist? So again, stop the video and read this question carefully. Okay, so when an individual buys ticket, it means it is a private good, right? So option A and B can be correct because both show private goods, so we can cross these two options. And again, art gallery, museums and the stuff like that are basically the part of merit goods, they are not demerit goods. So option B is correct answer. Demerit goods are harmful to the consumers and merit goods are satisfying, and they basically give you happiness and they give you positive externalities or positive side effects to on the society. So question number 5 is, the diagram shows a shift in firm's supply curve from S1 to S2. Supply curve is shifting to the left. It means whenever it shifts to the left, supply is decreasing. So supply is decreasing here. What may have caused the shift from S1 to S2? So now you have to find out the reason that may lead to decrease in supply, and here the reason can be a decrease in subsidy on the good. So option C is correct answer. When government stops providing subsidy, subsidy is the financial help. If government withdraws financial help from the private producers, then they will be able to produce less. So option C is correct answer. Okay, so if you're confused with any other option, you may write in the comment box. I'll try to get back to you as early as possible. Moving to question number 6, what is not an example of so you have to focus on this word not, because generally students ignore this word. What is not an example of role of factor enterprise in a modern economy? Enterprise is basically the risk taking ability. There are 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital and enterprise. So enterprise is the 4th factor of production that involves risk taking ability of entrepreneurs, in which they combine land, labor and capital to produce goods and services. So you have to find out which of these options is not the example of enterprise. Okay, so option B is the correct answer for this question. Making payments to suppliers for raw material and capital goods. Whenever business purchases something from the suppliers, then definitely managers generally make payments on behalf of the business owner. So this is not the function of enterprise. All other options are the part of function of factor production enterprise. They are the roles of enterprise. Okay, so because they involve risk taking. Moving to question number 7, a manufacturer increases the price of product from $4, right? So initially it was $4 and increases to 5 and then 6 in an attempt to increase total expenditure on the product. The table shows outcomes of this policy. So price is continuously increasing and total expenditure is also increasing, and it is increasing with a constant rate, means quantity will be constant. Quantity here, in all cases, quantity demand will be 100 here, 100 and then 100. So if we multiply 4 and 100, we will get 400. This is total expenditure. For example, if consumer purchases a product at $4 and he purchases 100 quantity, then his total expenditure will be 400. And on the other hand, when price increases to $5, again he purchases 100 units, so 100 into 5 is equal to 500. And when price increases to 6, he again purchases 100 quantity, and total expenditure increases to 600. So total expenditure and total revenue is calculated as like price multiplied by quantity demand. So we already know the price and we know the total expenditure or total revenue, and we can find out quantity demand. So quantity demand in each cases. So to find out quantity demand, you can just use the formula, mathematical formula. Quantity demand is equal to, we can shift price to the other side. So when we shift it to the other side, it will be like total expenditure divided by price. So we have total expenditure 400 initially. 400 over 4 is equal to 100, 500 over 5 is equal to 100, 600 over 6 is equal to again 100. So when change in price has no impact on quantity demand is totally insensitive. It means it is perfectly inelastic demand, right? So option B is correct answer. Now moving to another question, question number 6. A firm establishes that the price elasticity of supply for a product is 0.3. What is likely to be true about the firm? When price elasticity of supply is 0.3, it means it is inelastic supply. Inelastic supply means when a greater change in price will lead to a smaller change in quantity supplied. So you have to find out which of these options will make the supply inelastic. Okay, so the answer for this question is option C. It uses high proportion of perishable raw material. So perishable raw material means the raw material that basically expires quickly and it cannot be stored for longer time. So there are 4 factors that affect price elasticity of supply. Those include like time period. If something takes long time to produce, then its supply will be inelastic. And similarly, if the product is perishable, like food stuff, agricultural products, fruit and like vegetables as well as milk, so these are perishable goods and have inelastic supply. And similarly, if business has lesser stocks, like it has lesser quantity held in the stock or store, then again it will be inelastic. And similarly, if there is lesser reserve capacity in production plant, again it will be inelastic. And if we reverse these things, then supply will be elastic. Like if it takes less time to produce, then quickly we can produce and increase supply, so supply will be elastic. I'm going to explain like opposite situations when supply, instead of being inelastic, it is now elastic. So if goods are durable instead of perishable, then again it will be elastic supply. And greater availability of stock, it means you have produced and kept goods in your stores, then definitely a little increase in price will make you easily supply a greater quantity in the market. So supply will be elastic. Lesser reserve capacity instead of lesser reserve capacity, if you have greater reserve capacity, means you can use the production plant further and increase the supply, then supply will be relatively elastic. Okay, moving to question number 9. The diagram shows the market for oil. The original equilibrium is at P. So this is price P, where original equilibrium takes place at this point. It means demand curve is D and supply curve is S, because D and S intersect each other at this point. Now moving to the requirement of question, there is a reduction in world oil supplies due to war in some supplying countries, right? So if suppliers are unable to supply or they can supply less, then it means supply will decrease. When supply decreases, it shifts to the left. So it means new supply curve will be S1. So you can see this line, this is the new supply curve. Okay. Now moving to the other requirement. At the same time, some importing countries are much colder than usual. So since oil is a source of source of energy, then demand for like oil will increase, and as a result demand will shift to the right. When demand increases, demand curve shifts to the right, and so the new demand curve will be D1. Now these two red lines S1 and D1 intersect each other at this point, and as a result price will increase to P4. So the new price will be P4. So option D is correct answer. Moving to another question, question number 10. The demand for a good falls at the same time as its cost of production decreases, right? So it means demand is decreasing, and at the same time cost of production is also decreasing. Decrease in demand will shift demand to the left, and decrease in cost of production will shift supply curve to the right because supply will increase. What will be the combined effect of these changes on the price and on the quantity supplied of the good? Okay, so we cannot figure out until we make the graph for this. So we have a demand curve, negatively sloped demand curve for this, supply curve for this. Equilibrium is at this point where equilibrium price is P and equilibrium quantity is Q. Now if there is decrease in demand and increase in supply, then what changes will occur in this graph? Increase in supply will shift supply curve to the right, so the new supply curve will be S1, and decrease in demand, since demand is decreasing, decrease in demand will shift demand curve to the left, so new demand curve is D1. And new lines are basically S1 and D1, those are blue lines, so you can see that at new equilibrium price has definitely decreased. So we will pick option A or B, we can cross these two options. What happens to the quantity? Quantity will remain uncertain, so option B is correct answer, because in this case there are chances that quantity may remain the same, may increase or may decrease depending upon how much change is basically occurring in demand and supply curves. Okay, so option B will be the correct answer. This is the correct answer. Moving to question number 11. A government imposes a specific indirect tax on a product. When will the tax cause the greatest reduction in the consumer surplus for the buyers of the product? Right, so consumer surplus is the difference between market price and the price consumer is willing to pay. You already know that, and the impact will be greater if demand is inelastic and supply is elastic. Okay, so when demand is inelastic, it means consumer is forced to purchase the product. He cannot decrease the quantity that much because of increase in price. When government imposes indirect tax, price increases and still consumer will have to purchase it. But on the other hand, supplier is not forced to continue supplying the good. He can decrease the price because decrease the supply because his supply is elastic. So more impact will be on the buyer, that is consumer, in case of option C. So his consumer surplus will greatly decrease. Moving to question number 12, the table shows the maximum amount 3 students would each be willing to pay for a taxi to take them home from the nightclub. Jane is willing to pay this, Sarah and Yasmin. The fare for taxi is $12 each. Assume they share the taxi fare as shown in the table below. This is basically the share they pay, generally pay. Which row shows how much they each should pay so that they each obtain the same consumer surplus? Consumer surplus, as I told you, is the difference between market price and the price consumer is willing to pay. So these are the prices consumers are willing to pay, and these are the actual prices they should pay. Okay, so what price they should pay so that all of them get the same consumer surplus? Option D is correct answer for this, because if Jane was willing to pay $10 and if she pays 6, so 10 minus 6 will give us 4 consumer surplus, and Sarah was willing to pay $8 but she actually pays $4, so 8 minus 4 is equal to again 4, and Yasmin 6 minus 2 is equal to, she was willing to pay 2, she was willing to pay 6 but she actually pays 2, so 6 minus 2 is equal to again 4. So all of them are getting same consumer surplus if they pay prices as per option D. Moving to question number 3, a government fixes minimum price for a service. What will be the outcome of such policy? Okay, so minimum price is a price that is set by the government above equilibrium. All of you must know that. And if government imposes minimum price above equilibrium, then option D will be the correct answer as per these options. Production will stay the same if the minimum price is below the equilibrium. As you know that minimum price is always set above equilibrium. If government sets minimum price below equilibrium, then it will be totally ineffective and it will have no impact on equilibrium price and output and production and supply and demand as well. So all of them will remain the same. However, another important thing is if minimum price is set above equilibrium, then it will cause surplus, and on the other hand we have a maximum price. If maximum price is set below equilibrium, that will cause shortage, and if maximum price is set above equilibrium, then again that will be ineffective and that will have no impact on equilibrium price and quantity. So for this question, question number 13, option D is correct answer. Now moving to question number 14, the diagram illustrates the effect of placing a specific indirect tax equal to JM. So this is the specific tax, per unit specific tax, JM, this much, this perpendicular. Which area represents total tax receipts? Total tax receipts mean total amount of tax that government will receive. So we will multiply it by a quantity. If we multiply it by quantity, height into base, then we will get this much area. So this much area is the total tax income that will be received by the government. So XJMZ, option D is correct answer. And examiner may ask question for this, the same question in a different way. He may ask, find out the burden on the consumer or producer. So if we divide this rectangle into two parts, then this upper part is paid by the consumer and the lower part is paid by the producer. So burden on the consumer will be XJLY and burden on the producer will be YLMC. Okay, so however in this question answer D is correct answer. Question number 15 says the diagram shows the demand curve D1 and supply curve S1 for a good. Okay, so this is S1 initial and this is D1 initial demand curve. The government decides to pay producers a specific subsidy for each unit supplied to the market. Which curve shows the new effective demand or supply curve? Since subsidy is a supply factor, so it will have no impact on the demand curve. So demand curve will remain the same, that is D1. But supply will increase, right? So when supply increases, it shifts to the right, or we call it downward shift in the supply curve because it is coming down, right? So downward shift in supply curve, or we can say shift in supply curve to the right. So S2 will be the correct answer. Okay, so I'll explain next 15 questions in the next video. So if you are interested to watch that, then click on the next video. Thank you so much. And again, I would like to let you know that I will be conducting a grand class for MCQs paper in the first week of June, inshallah ta'ala. So if you are interested to join, then you may contact me on WhatsApp number given on the screen, or you may find it in the description as well. And similarly, if you're from Islamabad or Rawalpindi and you can join me physically, then you can come to F8 Asas Academy. And if you are from other cities, then you may join online as well. So this is it for today's video. I'll explain next 15 questions in the next video. Hi everyone, hope you are doing great. So in previous video I explained you first 15 questions of specimen paper June 2023, and this is the second part of the same paper, starting from question number 16. The same scheme we will follow, as you can stop the video, read the question carefully, try to figure out the answer, then listen to the logic. So question says planned government expenditure for a country is in the fiscal year 2016 is estimated at 760 billion. The top 5 areas of expenditure are given in the table below. First one is pension. Pension is a kind of transfer payment. Transfer payments are the payments that are made by the government without taking any kind of good or service from the general public. Okay, so pension is a transfer payment. Healthcare expenditure are not the part of transfer payments. Welfare payments are again the transfer payments. Spending on education, spending on defense, right? So these are not the part of transfer payments. Okay, so there are two types of transfer payments here. One is pension, other one is welfare payment. So we can add these two figures. So when we add them, we will get 4 plus 1, 3 plus 1, 4. So 5 plus 1 is 6 and 1 plus 1 is 2. So 265. So C is the correct answer for question number 16. Question number 17 says the diagram shows a shift in aggregate demand curve from AD1 to AD2. So it is shifting to the right. So it is increasing. So we have to find out the reason for rightward shift. So what might have caused this shift? A fall in the budget surplus, fall in the trade surplus, rise in imports, rise in interest rates. So what should be the answer? We have to identify the demand factor that will shift it. So the demand factor is fall in budget surplus. So option A is the correct answer. Okay, so when budget is in surplus, budget surplus mean when government revenue is greater than government expenditure, and fall in budget deficit mean now we are decreasing revenue through taxes and we are increasing expenditure on government basically spending. So government expenditure is the part of aggregate demand. So the formula of aggregate demand is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So when we are increasing government expenditure, G stands for government expenditure. So aggregate demand will also write, it is basic rule of math, if right hand side is increasing, left hand side will increase. So aggregate demand will increase. When aggregate demand increases, it shifts to the right. Okay, so why other options cannot be the answer to this question? You can think on that. If you don't understand them, then definitely write in the comment box. I'll get back to you and explain to you what is the reason why other options cannot be the answers. Moving to question number 18. The diagram shows the change in economy's rate of inflation over 4 years. So you can stop the video and read the question carefully first, then figure out the answer, right? So what happened to the general price level over the 4 years? Keep in mind, on y-axis we have rate of inflation. We don't have price level here. This is rate of inflation. When rate of inflation is positive, price level is increasing, right? When rate of inflation is negative, price level decreases. When inflation rate goes below 0, that is basically deflation and shows decrease in price level. And whenever it is above 0, it shows that price level is increasing because rate of inflation is positive. So in period 1, when rate of inflation is sharply increasing, definitely price level will be increasing. When rate of inflation increases, price level also increases. So year 1 we can cancel out option A because it is constant, increased. So in period 1, price level is increasing. Now moving to period number 2. The rate of inflation here is constant. It means if price level increased by 10% at the start of year 2, it increased at the end of year 2 as well. So still the rate of inflation is positive, although it is rate of inflation is constant, mean if it was increasing by 10%, still it is increasing by 10%, but price level will be increasing, right? So because inflation rate is above 0 and it is positive. So now we can cancel out option B as well, because in here 2 it says that price level is constant. So price level is not constant, rate of inflation is constant, price level will be increasing, because if rate of inflation is constant, it means price level is increasing at the same rate. So now we can cross these options as well. So we have C and D. Moving to period 3, in period 3 rate of inflation is decreasing, continuously decreasing, but still it is positive. So it will be the period of disinflation, and in case of disinflation, price level still increases but with decreasing rate. So again in year 3 examiner says increase. Still we cannot decide on this as well. So we have to think of figure 4 as well. So in year 4 the rate of inflation goes below 0. When rate of inflation goes below 0, it is deflation, and when deflation occurs, price level decreases. So option D is correct answer, because it says decreasing. So we will cross option C as well. So correct answer is option D. Okay, so another way you can approach this question is you can start with the last period, that is year 4. In year 4 deflation is occurring or price level is decreasing. So in year 4 you can see that inflation rate, price level is decreasing here and decreasing here as well. So we can cross these values. And in all other options, price level is decreasing. So in year 3 it says decreasing, it is constant, it is increasing. So this option was correct, but all these two options are not correct. So increased, increased, increased. So D is correct answer. Moving to question number 19, the diagram shows the short-run average, short-run aggregate supply curve of an economy, at which equilibrium level of national income is a reduction in the rate of interest likely to cause the greatest inflationary increase in the economy, right? So this is period D definitely. After point D you can see that supply curve is steep. A little rise in aggregate demand will lead to a greater rise in price level. So inflation rate will greatly increase after D. Before that it is a little flatter and it is getting steeper, but after this point it is more steeper. So for question number 9, option D is the correct answer. So now moving to question number 20, a large coal mine is forced to close because of falling demand for coal. As consumers switch to less polluting fuels, the government organizes retraining courses and recruitment events for the coal mine workers. Which type of unemployment is this? Keep in mind, when unemployment is occurring in a certain industry, so this is coal industry, so unemployment is occurring in coal industry, so it will be a structural unemployment. Structural unemployment affects a certain region or certain industry, so C is the correct answer. Moving to question number 21, a government succeeds in changing a current account deficit into surplus. Current account deficit is when cash coming into the country is less than cash going out of the country. So more money is leaving the country, less money is coming into the country. In other words, exports are less than imports. The value of export is less than value of imports. Current account surplus is when exports, value of export is more than the value of imports. Cash coming into the country, money coming into the country is more than leaving the country. So initially more money was leaving, now more money, we want more money to come in. So government policy, which policy will succeed in this case? Why might this current account surplus increase the country's inflation rate? Okay, so if we were initially in deficit, now we are moving to surplus, so how it can cause inflation? When we move to surplus, aggregate demand increases. Again, we can write down the magical formula: aggregate demand, C plus I. C is consumption, I is investment, G is government spending, X is export, and M is import. So if we move into surplus, it means this part will be increasing, export minus import will be increasing. When it increases, aggregate demand will increase, and when aggregate demand increases, it causes inflation. You can make the graph to look at this as well. So this is aggregate demand, this is aggregate supply. Initially equilibrium price is P and real GDP is Y. Since aggregate demand is increasing, so it will shift to the right from AD to AD1, where price level will increase from P to P1 and real GDP will increase from Y to Y1. So price level is increasing. When price level increases, we call it inflation. Okay, so moving to question 22. Question 22 says, the diagram shows government revenue and expenditure for 3 years. This is revenue, this is expenditure. When revenue is more than expenditure, budget will be in surplus. Budget surplus is when government earns more than government expenditure, so earning is more than expenditure in this year. It is in deficit because expenditure are more than income, budget deficit of the government. And again this is deficit because government expenditure are more than government income. So in these 2 years we have deficit, and deficit is also increasing because expenditure are increasing, revenue is decreasing. So look into the bar of revenue here. It was little greater and now revenue has decreased. Expenditure were less, now expenditures have increased. So deficit has increased. Keep in mind, budget deficit and balance of payment or current account deficit are two different things. When we talk about balance of payment or current account deficit, we mean exports are less than imports. And when we talk about budget surplus, it means budget surplus or deficit, it means we are talking about government income and expenditure. So deficit budget is when government income is less than government expenditure. Okay, so what can be concluded from this diagram? Option B is correct answer. A budget deficit increased. Again, we are moving to the deficit and deficit is also increasing. Moving to question number 23. In recent years, an economy has experienced changes in its price level as shown below. Percentage change in price is decreasing and it moves to the negative region then after 2015, during 2015. Which government policy is most effective in reversing the trend shown in the price levels? Price level is decreasing here. Keep in mind here we have price level, not inflation rate. So if price level is coming down, it means price level is decreasing. When inflation rate comes down, still if it is positive, that shows increase in price. But here the situation is different. Examiner has labeled it price level. So price level is decreasing, it means prices are falling. So for this question, option D is correct answer. Reduce interest rate and increase money supply. So if you want price level to increase, then you should decrease interest rate. This is the part of monetary policy, expansionary monetary policy. In case of expansionary monetary policy, when we decrease interest rate, more people get more loans, investors get more loans and they invest more money, consumers get more loan and they consume more, so aggregate demand increases. Increase in money supply is also expansionary monetary policy and it also increases aggregate demand and increases price level. Moving to question number 24, the diagram shows Greece trade position with European Union and Russia between 2005 and 2014. So this is period 2005 and this is period 2015. So you can see this dotted line is import from European Union and this line is export to European Union and this line is import from Russia, and this line that is on the x-axis continuously is export to Russia. What can be concluded about this period from 2005 to 2014? Option B is correct answer. Greece annual trade deficit with European Union was lower in 2014 than in 2005. Trade deficit is when exports are less than imports. So in 2005 you can see that export to European Union was around $10 billion or $11 billion or just above $10 billion, while imports were much higher, that is around $35 billion. So this gap is much higher showing that deficit was greater because imports are more than exports. And in 2014 this gap has decreased, mean we are in deficit, mean Greece is still in deficit but deficit has decreased. So option B is correct answer. Question number 25 says there is a rise in the exchange rate of US dollars. Which would cause the greatest increase in US current account deficit? Again, read the question carefully, stop the video and listen to the logic then. For question number 25, B is correct answer. A high price elasticity of demand for imports. Okay, so when exchange rate increases, it decreases price of imports. When value of currency increases, price of imports will fall. And a little fall in imports will lead to greater rise in demand for imports. So as a result, total payments on imports will increase, and when total payments on imports will increase, current account will move to deficit, and this will have a greatest impact as per the given options, right? Okay, so this is the reason for this. Part C is also relevant to price elasticity of demand, but price elasticity of demand is low here, so its impact will be the similar. Total payments, total income will fall in this case, but the impact will be a little smaller. When elasticity is greater, the impact will be a little greater. So B option is correct answer. Question number 26 says, since 2000 is basically year 2000. Since year 2000, a country's export price have increased on average by 50% and its import prices by 25%. So both are increasing. Import and export prices are increasing. What is the current figure for the current account for the country's terms of trade? You have to put the formula terms of trade. Terms of trade is equal to price of exports over price of imports multiplied by 100. So this is the formula to calculate it. Price index of export and imports is taken as 100 initially, right? All indexes are based on 100. So if there is rise in price of export by 50% and initially we are taking prices 100, so 100 into 50% will give us like 150. Price of export will move to 150 by increasing 50%. Import price has increased by 25%. So initially import price will be 100. If we increase it by 25%, it will become 125, and now multiply it by 100. So you can pick the formula, pick calculator and find it. So if we calculate it, we will multiply 150 into 100 will give us 15,000 divided by 125, and it is equal to 120. So C is the correct answer for this question. Okay, so again you can take screenshot of this question if you need to review it later on. And now moving to question number 27. Question number 27 was thought to be a little challenging for many students. So let's have a look on this, how to figure it out. Stop the video, read the question carefully and then listen to the logic. Each diagram shows the production possibility curve of two countries, X and Y, which produces food and clothes. Food is shown on y-axis, clothes are shown on x-axis. Each graph has the same trend. In which diagram would both economies benefit by specializing in the good in which they have comparative advantage and trading at an exchange rate of 1 unit of clothes to 1.5 units of food? So keep in mind this is the exchange rate. So 1 unit of clothing should be equal to 1.5 units of food. This is the exchange rate. Exchange rate is when you can buy 1.5 unit of food by giving 1 unit of clothing. Comparative advantage theory is based on basically the idea of barter trade. Barter trade is when you exchange goods with other goods instead of exchanging it with money. Same is the case with absolute advantage theory. So here we don't consider the amount of money to exchange or basically use as an exchange. We use these two goods to exchange with each other. Okay, so in option C is correct answer. Let me explain you first this, then if you don't understand, then definitely I'll explain you other. You can write in the comment box. Here you can see there are two countries, X and Y. Let me write it here. There are two countries. We can make a table here, countries, and we can write like clothing and food. We can write clothes here, clothes, and then we can write food here. We have country X and country Y. Country X produces 2 units of clothes and 4 units of food. This is 4 units. And country Y, these are production possibility curves of different countries. So country Y produces 5 units of food and 5 units of clothing. So this is the table that I constructed from that graph. If we find out ratios, then ratios will be like 1 cloth is equal to 2 units of food. And if we find out the ratio here, 1 cloth is equal to 1 food, right? 2 ones are 2, 2 twos are 4, 5 ones are 5, 5 ones are 5. So I use this. So this shows opportunity cost. So clothing, and this is food. The rule for exchange is we set exchange rate between these two ratios, right? Cloth is 1 in both cases, so 1 cloth. We also need 1 cloth, and we have to find out 1.5 food. So this is possible that exchange rate will be set between 1 and 2. Since 1.5 comes between 1 and 2, so 1.5 food can be 1 clothing can be equal to the 1.5 units of food. Again, what is the logic for that? The logic is, if country X can produce 2 units of food, it will never be willing to give all of the food it produces, right? It will be willing to give less than 2. So 1.5 is less than 2. Country Y itself produces 1 units of food, and if country X offers him 1 unit of food, then it will not accept it, because if country Y itself can produce 1 unit, so there is no reason to involve in trade and trouble. So it will keep producing food itself instead of getting 1 unit from country Y, country X. So country Y will be looking for food more than 1 unit. Whatever this country produces itself, it will want to get more than this, and country X will be willing to offer less than 2. Whatever total production it is producing, it will offer less than that. So it means country X will offer less than 2 and country Y will accept more than 1. So 1.5 comes between these two ranges, more than 1 and less than 2. So that's why the answer C is correct. Why other options cannot be correct then, right? So let me explain you this concept. This concept is really tricky, and maximum students basically are unable to solve this question in final exams. So if we can prove one more option D, although option C is correct answer, I'm just trying to explain option D so that you understand what actually was happening here. So again, I have to construct the table. Country X produces 4 units of clothes and 2 units of food. So 4 and 2, this is PPC of X, and 4 units of food and 4 units of clothing for country Y. So this is production possibility of this. Okay, so now again we find opportunity cost. We can basically one cloth is equal to 0.5 food. So this is the opportunity cost of country X, and opportunity cost of country Y is 4 ones are 4, 4 ones are 4. So 1:1. Okay. So keeping in mind the previous thing I explained you, that country X itself can produce 0.5 units of food against every 1 unit of clothing, and country Y can produce 1 unit of food against every 1 unit of clothing. Okay. So what will happen is country X will accept more than 0.5 and country Y will offer less than 1. So it means exchange rate can be set somewhere, maybe against 1 unit of clothing is equal to 0.75 units of food maximum. This can happen, or this it can be like 0.8, 0.9, 0.99 it can be, but it cannot go above 1 because country Y itself produces 1 unit of food, so it will never offer entire quantity, and country X itself can produce 0.5 units, so it will expect more than 0.5. So if we move above 0.5 and below 1, then it can be somewhere like 0.75 or anything. 0.5 it will be greater than 0.5, it can be 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, but it cannot be 1. So this is why exchange at this rate of 1 clothing is equal to 1.5 food cannot take place in case of option D. And same is the case with other options, so you can try those options as well. Okay, so now moving to question number 28. So read the question 28 first and then try to figure out the answer and listen to the logic later on. So I'm going to explain you question number 28. Sorry. Which government policy is most likely to focus on an increase in quantity of skilled labor? Okay, so skilled labor is the part of supply side policy. Supply side policy is the policy that manipulates aggregate supply, and it undergoes education and training of workers. So education and training of workers improves the skilled labor force in the country. Other supply side policies are subsidy, deregulation of monopoly, trade union reforms, and capital expenditure of the government, privatization. These are the supply side policies. Exchange rate policy has nothing to do with the scale of labor. Fiscal policy is about taxes and subsidies, taxes and government spending, and monetary policy is relevant to money supply, interest rate, and exchange rate, as well as credit regulation. So it has nothing to do with skilled labor. Supply side policy is relevant to education and training of workers, so it increases supply of labor, skilled supply of labor. Now moving to question number 29. A small trading country decides on a policy of import substitute by producing more goods and services itself rather than purchasing them from other countries. Right, so it is import substitution is when you produce alternative products of imported goods within your country. So this small country is following this policy now. Okay, so what is the most likely reason for this policy? Option C is correct answer. To protect local industries from international competition. Okay, so when you keep producing import substitutes within the country, it means you are trying to protect your local industry from international competition. Means people cannot import from other countries now, they will purchase from their own country, and as a result local industry is protected. Question number 30 is the monetary authorities of a country whose currency is floating freely raise the market rates of interest. Okay, so it has free floating exchange rate, one thing. The second thing is it is increasing interest rate. Other things being equal, the exchange rate of the currency is most likely to, when interest rate increases, exchange rate increases. Why exchange rate increases? I'll explain you graphically as well. So first of all, other things being equal, exchange rate of currency is most likely to increase, right? So we will pick option C or D. We can cross these because option A and B are saying that exchange rate will fall. When interest rate increases, keep in mind exchange rate is interest rate is determines the value of a currency. The currency that offers more interest, its value increases, and the currency that offers less interest, its value decreases. So interest rate increases, exchange rate, so option C and D can be correct. Moving to the other part of the answer, exchange rate will rise as foreigners buy the domestic currency in order to hold assets with higher yield. Definitely foreigners will prefer holding that currency in their bank account to earn more interest, that is offering a high interest rate. So option C is correct answer. So we will pick option C and cross option D. So this is it. This was a complete paper March 2023. This was specimen paper June 2023. And in the next video, I'll explain you one more paper. And if you keep watching this video series and this playlist, then definitely it will help you. I'll keep posting videos till the exam. And furthermore, I suggest all of you to try to get this book that is showing on the screen, and I'll be conducting a grand class, 6 hours grand class for paper 1 as well in the first week of June before exams. So if you are interested to join that, then you may contact me on the given contact number in the description. So see you inshallah in the next video. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.